The world feels a bit toxic and blah these days, doesn't it? The same old people coming up with the same old solutions for big problems that still don't work. We need to change the game. Well, welcome to Women Advancing. Join me, host Kate Byrne, in this dynamic bi-weekly podcast, bringing together female founders, funders, and thought leaders. Listen to the people driving change, how they got there, how you can help, and yep, how you might just be the next one to advance. Proof that all ships rise with women at the helm. That's what happens when Women Advance with Kate Byrne.
Hey everyone, it's Kate Byrne, your host with Women Advancing. So my guest today, Kelly Peterson, is the author of Gen Z, Teens Take Action, and she's the founder of the Change Project. Kelly doesn't just talk about youth empowerment, she's been building systems around it for the bulk of her career, be it from boardrooms at places like Virgin Unite to grassroots circles with teen change makers themselves. Kelly actually spent the majority of her career proving that young voices, they're not just a sideshow, they're a very smart strategy. In this episode of Women Advancing, we're going to explore what happens when global influence meets kitchen table wisdom. Kelly opens up about what Gen Z is getting right, what adults, sadly, we still don't get, and how we can all show up better for the next generation of leaders. We're going to talk about courage, believing in yourself, civic engagement, and why writing Gen Z Teens Take Action was as much a revelation for herself of her own journey as it is a roadmap for others. So if you care about purpose-driven leadership, youth, power, and the future of world, pretty much everything, you're going to find this conversation is definitely for you. Be sure to stay to the end because I share a couple of key takeaways. And believe me, there are many. Oh my gosh, Women Advancing listeners, you're in for a treat today. We've got Kelly Peterson, who's the author of Gen Z Teens Take Action and the founder of the Change Project, joining us today. Kelly, bring it on. Share your gems. I'm so excited to hear what you have to share today.
I'm so excited to be here, Kate. It's awesome. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for having me. And it's great to catch up again after all these years.
Yeah.
What a fun reason to do it.
Fascinating things. So I'm just saying. So Kelly, share with everyone a little bit about your start.
Oh my gosh, my start. I knew this question was coming, and yet still I look at my past and I think, what a bumper pool table.
See, everyone, that happens. Because Kelly, this is the thing. So many people think, oh, everyone has such a linear line. It was so straight. Or if it wasn't, you went on a path and then you went on another. And it's not true. I mean, sometimes the best stuff happens when you are in kind of like a bumper pool room.
I mean, and it only starts to make sense at the end of the game, right?
Yes.
When you so strategically planned all of those ball bumps, whatever it's called. So this was fun to think about because when I was in college, I was a communications major. And I very specifically wanted to help people with that major. I studied sociology, psychology, political science, and the culture of communication. And then what was I going to do with that? So I had no idea, like people graduating from college back then, maybe, who are a communication major. And very quickly, I learned and became a lifelong agency gal. So I started in recruitment advertising. Someone said I should try event marketing, which I did for about 10 years because I'm a people person with a lot of energy. Yeah. I moved up through the ranks of event marketing and ended up actually in a career that I love of brand strategy. So by the point I joined Sterling Brands in San Francisco, I had been with a range of satellite office marketing agencies. And I say that because I think being with satellite offices or in new founding agencies gave me the bandwidth to wear a lot of hats and to always be sort of like pushing the limits. So I never worked in a super corporate environment, even though I was serving corporate clients.
Kind of the best of both worlds in that sense.
It was. I mean, and I didn't realize it at the time. So, I was just kind of, you're bouncing back and forth. And the other thing that I was really lucky is even from when I was working in recruitment advertising, Disneyland was my client. Oh. And all the way through, I had the Nestle's and the Haagen-Dazs or the Apple computers or Sunset Magazine or Nintendo or Xbox. I was always getting to work with really big clients. So I was always getting to work with people and getting trained in agencies that really knew what they were doing. Like it was always about big stakes, right?
Right.
So I was super lucky in that way. So let's see, fast forward to maybe about 10 or 15 years into my career, I ended up at Sterling Brands. I ran the San Francisco strategy office. I was general manager. I worked with the smartest people. I got to travel all over the world, which kind of tapped into my I love people, I get to travel thing. Right. And we were working on really great, amazing campaigns. So I was getting to sort of practice the business side of my brain, and we were doing strategy. So it was always about understanding what the customer wants and connecting it with, what Levi's wants to give them or what the NBA is all about. But this was not enough. And the other side of me, the other bumper pool table that was sort of like pulling me in different directions is as a teen, I volunteered. My mom and I volunteered from the time that I was like 11 or 12 through the time of graduation. When I moved to San Francisco, I went to a volunteer fair. I ended up joining and then became president of the board of an organization called Make a Circus. Yeah, and you're a longtime Bay Area person. You raised your daughters here. Did you ever hear of Make a Circus?
I'm trying to think. I think I did. I vaguely.
Yeah, so they'd been around for 25 years, and they basically brought a circus to a park near you everywhere in the summer in the Bay Area, and they taught circus skills from age 2 to 18, and they had latchkey programs and foster kid programs, and basically teaching kids confidence through the art of the circus.
That's great. So literally through the art of play and being silly and feeling okay with it.
Yes, exactly. We had a gym, we had a flying trapeze, we had acrobats. We trained quite a few of the Cirque du Soleil teens that went on to become Cirque du Soleil teens. So again, and it was also my first dip into, are we a circus arts organization or are we a service organization? So kind of navigating that polarization. So I ended up having to quit that position because I was traveling so much at Sterling. So anyway, fast forward, I'm working at Sterling. It's all fantastic. Hurricane Katrina happens. I go down to Mississippi and use all my vacation days, stay there for a month and help out. And Bono is launching Red around this time. And I decide I have to do something. I have to give back somehow.
Right.
So this is kind of the why that then shapes the rest of the half of my career, which is a year and a half later, I quit Sterling when my boss wouldn't let me open a sustainability practice. I know, how rude, right?
Yes, the nerve and stupid.
I know, but also yay for me because sustainability probably isn't my jam. Again, I'm kind of more of a people person.
Yep.
And we were on a flight going to Geneva to work with the Global Fund to fight AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria. And I asked my client how I could start working in this field. And he said, when can you start?
Oh my gosh, what a great compliment.
I mean, right? When you're completely dejected and you open up and then your client says, come work for us. So I did. I know. So, and that's why it's kind of funny, no plan, bumper pool table. It all just makes sense because I just kept following what I was feeling and who I was, which may or may not have been a good thing at that time. But I basically spent the next 4 or 5 years, I guess, working for big NGOs. So I tended to work on 7-month to year-long contracts because that's how NGOs work. I worked with the Virgin Foundation. I worked with the UN. I helped launch the Global Impact Investing Network. I did their brand.
I forgot about Gin. I forgot that you did that.
Yeah. So that was super cool. And it like I got to follow a lot of trajectories around how these NGOs work, how they do work. I was always coming at it from a corporate fundraising and a communication standpoint, like how do we appeal to the corporate world? How do we make doing good appeal to corporate in a way that they can invest, right? Because at the end of the day, it's all about a business.
Right.
So I did that for 5 years. And then I needed to get back to California, and California is not the heart of where big NGO work happens. You don't get your choice of things, and things don't move that fast anyway. And so I came actually back to my old agency. They took me back after 5 years, 6 years. And I realized immediately that was a mistake.
Yeah.
Because it was too far down the path.
Yeah. Well, sometimes you have to kind of do a little bit of a flight to safety touch base, especially when you're coming back and you're getting kind of resituated, only to realize that you outgrew it. There was a reason why you left in the first place. Yep. And so you were too big for it and it was too tiny for you.
And it wasn't where my heart sat. I was told actually that I should wait till I had made a lot of money to try to make a difference. And maybe that was the smart thing to do, but I didn't choose that path.
I know.
So then just to finish that off, the last 12 years or so, I came back, realized I couldn't stay there. I didn't feel good about staying there, quit and reinstigated the change project. And I have been doing both corporate work and social impact work ever since.
Which is awesome because honestly, it's really true. Your experience in your CV, like a magnet, like a moth to the light. I mean, places like, Virgin Unite, UNICEF, and like you said. So it seems like it's always kind of stayed close, would you say, to people in purpose? Young people in purpose, right?
Yes,
so
the last half. Yeah.
So what's the common thread? Is that the common thread across like global and your grassroots? Because you have such a cool combination of both. And not everybody really does. You've got global work, but then you've also got kind of this grassroots fire. How do we, start spreading the word and creating a movement?
Yeah. I think that was driven from a very young age. My grandmother traveled a lot. She was on a secretary salary, and every year she got to spend 2 weeks going somewhere and taking these pictures with heads cut off in these foreign places that got my imagination going. Right. And I have been very drawn to other cultures and how other people live my entire life. And so when I was going through that, is it about sustainability? As all these movements were coming up, I realized sustainability was probably a little too dry for me. Yeah, and I was always drawn to making it equitable for people, helping people, people have the power, really helping people realize their own potential. Because I think everyone has a gift to give, but not everybody realizes they have that gift, nor do they know where to start. So I think, UNICEF, it was keep kids alive till the age of 5.
Right.
Make a Circus was about, and again, this is only clear in hindsight, giving them the ability to have some type of self-confidence because they can tumble by the age of 3. I had a client end of 2016, actually, we did the rebrand or the update for the Adler Planetarium in Chicago. Oh, wow. Trying to remember if you have roots in Chicago, or is it John? Okay. Anyway, the Adler Planetarium, basically, they had this most amazing president step in, and she wanted to bring science to every neighborhood in Chicago. So basically, look up. So cool. Again, it's kind of back to empowering people with whatever is there, whatever is needed.
I was just going to say their own advocacy, right? And that they do it. So you've had a great combination of large major institutions, and then also youth led, kind of up and coming grassroots piece. So what's one thing big organizations need to unlearn, and what could youth change makers borrow from the global playbook?
So it's interesting. We used to live in a time where these partnerships happened a lot more. There was more money for these types of things. And I think big organizations and startups were all trying to figure that out. I think, big corporations move more slowly. They have to establish consistency. They've got stakeholders, they've got money, they've got year-long budgets. And then you have youth and change makers. And, I was thinking about, when is the last time actually we really saw youth come forth on these topics? The topics they're coming forward on are these really serious topics, right? Like gun violence. Yeah. So, and they're brash, they're young, they're fearless, they, take no prisoners. And because of that, and because they see things so clearly and they can say what they want, I think the thing is partnership has to happen because big organizations cannot. But there are these moments where they can get behind youth and they can create this awareness. My brand background has always afforded me, and what I've always believed in is branding for good. So if you've got a clear purpose and you're not, as a brand, changing your hat every 2 minutes, you can get behind initiatives when they come up and amplify them.
And you become the platform, which is fantastic. And that also only endears both your internal stakeholders, right? So your staff, your team, your external, your customers, and also the people in your community around it. And only good can really come from that. Well,
yep.
So that kind of gives us a little breadcrumb over to your book, Gen Z Teens Take Action. It's kind of part blueprint and then part kind of call to arms. We'll talk a little bit about the book, but then what I want to know is, writing it, did it teach you anything kind of about this generation?
Yes. There's a lot of lessons, actually. It was a total joy to interview these teens, by the way. I mean, honestly, I felt like it was an honor that had been bestowed upon me. So the point of the book is to say teens are doing some really cool things right now, and we need to be listening to teens. So I don't know where we stepped away from remembering that teens see so clearly. We celebrate teen musicians and celebrities, yet these teen change makers, times are tough right now. I mean, I think that's part of the challenge. But teens, as we all know, are our future, and they see very clearly. And they are doing some really cool grassroots initiatives because of the tools that are out there right now. So my goal, again, getting back to, these teens are doing something great. Is there something in their story? Is there, what is their origin story? Why did they feel empowered to do this? What secrets do they have that potentially could be shared? Or again, it's a story. Is there something that will connect with another teen to help them realize I can do this too? Right? Because teens are kind of being stifled in all of the communication tools that are available. Like, is anybody really listening, or are they even being encouraged? So that's the call to arms, rah piece of it.
Right. Yeah.
And then talking to them, and I went into each story. I kind of like mapped out the line of questions. I, as you know, I interview for a living. And so I had this whole thing mapped out that I was sure I was going to uncover. And I was sure the story was going to be like, ooh, what did you encounter? What almost held you back? It wasn't that at all. It was their perspective and the uniqueness of the circumstance that they came into. All of their backgrounds are totally different. And because of, a lot of them, or quite a few of them, went through some very painful circumstances and self-learnings, as teens do. And what they decided to do with it, because they did overcome it and because they did want to share with others, they shared these stories with such courage and vulnerability and without a shade of self-doubt or self-judgment that we as adults tend to carry, like, ooh, should I share this? They just shared it from, point A to point B, not with a, yay, look at, I did this, or like, oh, this was really hard. It was just like, this is what I've done.
This is what happened.
Yeah. And it's incredible what they did while going to school, while growing up as a teen, while, again, just kind of like having this, oh my gosh, I have to do this, not knowing what to do, and then just figuring it out, starting to talk to people.
This is the thing that I've really been blown away with myself, is when talking to young entrepreneurs, they literally exactly that. They're, one in particular was, groups, nobody understood about voting. So I built a platform to teach them all about, I never did it before. I've talked with the founder about quantum computing, and she's like, I couldn't understand. Then I understood it, and I realized, oh my God, so many more people should understand it. Not everybody thinks that way. So there's also there's both curiosity, but there's also this really delicious generosity of, hey, I learned this cool thing. You might find it cool too. If you do, yay. And if you don't, no harm, no foul. And so there's no taking that part personally, it seems.
Yeah. As they unpacked their stories, none of these teens are out looking for attention. And so they, when I reached out to them, it was like, it was amazing that they accepted my offer to write about them. First of all, I never thought about the fact that we've got teens under 18, and, you've got to jump through some hoops to talk to somebody and tell their story.
Yeah.
And yet they were out there doing this work. So I was hopeful. And again, my hope is to amplify their work and then connect that to other teens, because that's the power of story, right? Like you hear something in someone else's story and it just gets you to start thinking about what's going on or what maybe you're pondering.
So, with that all being said, what then would you say are some of the sort of inaccurate narratives people keep repeating about Gen Z?
It's interesting you ask this because I have a corporate client right now, and we are in the middle of trying to figure out, well, what's Gen Z doing next? And I love this question because I don't know. I think it's very hard to categorize what's happening with Gen Z right now. If
Yeah.
you think about the last 5 years alone, COVID, and this isn't a political discussion, but bombs are being dropped. We have a 15% immigrant population, and there are armed guards chasing them down. 15%, how many people know an immigrant in their life? And this, we have increasing percentages of teens being affected by what's happening in our world, in the economy. And so I don't think, other than social media and digital platforms, they're just surviving right now.
Yeah.
So I think it's really hard to categorize what has been so easy to do with Gen Y, millennial, boomers, Z.
Right.
We're really in a like, who knows?
It's a whole new, it's an entirely new landscape. And I completely agree with you when you go back to when they were born. I mean, it's honestly kind of exhausting. And with guns so rampant, also, and no wonder everyone's anxious.
Well, and that's the thing too, is that all their parents are anxious, right? And their neighbors are anxious. And their teachers are anxious. We've never been so anxious. But imagine growing up in that kind of world. I don't know, even in our lifetime, if we've had something like that. I would say probably World War II, maybe Vietnam. But that at least only came at you through the TV.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. It wasn't right there in your face. And a steady reminder from documents inside a bathroom stall. Keep your phone off, put your feet up so the shooter doesn't find you.
Right.
I mean,
right.
That's a thing. Yeah.
And so I think it's, I think that of course, they care about cause more. They're moving out of the house later. I think school has become more distant for them, but yet, the digital platform is giving them lots of opportunity. But I think we don't really know yet what trends or what is shaping Gen Z yet, because it's just so different.
And it's so constantly shifting. Because what I was going to ask is, so with that being said, what should adults, how do we help? How do we get in the way and go away? So like, what do they need most from us? And what should we stop doing?
The thing, going back to the teens that I talked to, I think what also struck me is their parents, well, not all of their parents, but most of their parents stopped and listened. Yeah. And the other parents did stop and listen once they made the case. And I think it's realizing, I think a parent's instinct is to protect. And in that protection, forget to listen about this young adult that is very perceptive and has so much to offer. So I think it's going back to encouraging and listening and really sitting down, because I think teens are losing face-to-face communication and personal time. And that sounds like parenting 101, but it's time. It's quality time and listening that is so needed right now. Less run, go, try this. But like, let's sit down and really talk about what's happening and what you're interested in.
Right. And also sometimes just be together.
And just be.
Quiet.
Yes.
The end. It's really interesting. I was talking to someone who is a young social worker, and she said, honestly, I really wonder if social work is even a thing. And really what we need to do is help parents parent, especially for youth, because in her experience, some of the things that were coming up were just a kid being a kid and having, because of the anxiety, oh my God, creating a thing out of it. It's really interesting. So then how can companies start prepping for this generation? Because there's going to be, I would assume flatter hierarchies, if any, right? Flowing, collaborative team groups. And what you just said, listening, as opposed to getting resentful and defensive when recommendations or questions are being made.
Yeah, I think that there is something really, truly different happening. And I have not been in a corporate environment to manage young teams in a while. But I can tell you just from working with the young interns that I'm working with now and doing a lot of the interviewing that I've been doing with teens on behalf of one of my clients, times have changed primarily because of these last 5 years. So they weren't in classrooms. There wasn't anyone supervising them. They didn't grow up on email culture. So, and we also have a democracy created by social tools and communication. So I think there's something really different happening, but it is going to throw that hierarchical corporate, how things get managed. I think it's going to throw it a little bit for a loop. But there are the tools to sort of take the time to create these working, pods, environments.
Right.
I mean, and that's probably going a little bit against what they're trying to do with AI and making things more efficient. Like we kind of got to slow down and really listen and take the time to train versus just, lining people up and giving them that one job and letting them learn it. I think there's a lot of idea generation, collective idea generation and collaboration that needs to happen at a much junior level.
Well, yeah. And I think that's one of the things. I do some work with some of the local business school and their school of entrepreneurship. And it's one of the things we've talked about is how do we, skill these graduates to frankly work with older generations. So how do they communicate? How do they pose things differently so that it doesn't become an issue and things can get done and they can be heard and their smart thinking can be heard?
And I think it's like creating a flow, like figuring out what that flow is because it's different than what we grew up with.
Yeah. So Cal, with all of that, it's got to be hard. I shouldn't say it's got to be hard. I take that back. Cancel that thought.
Okay.
You've got these, different missions. And as you said earlier, corporates sometimes move slower because they're big behemoths. How do you kind of stay grounded and psyched when what you're trying to do is so big, but you run into that slow molasses movement pace of some of the corporations you work with?
Interesting. As a consultant, I get to come in and work on quick projects. So I have quick windows. So that sort of suits my personal tempo. But you're right, it's hard because I tend to be juggling too many missions at the same time. So what grounds me? I'm a problem solver. So I stay focused on what the problem is.
Smart.
And resourcing a problem. And then it's, meditation.
Yeah.
My dog walks.
Yeah. That's all really true.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be simple. It's just making the time. And it's oddly, making the time isn't always simple.
Right. That's the hard part. That is the hard part is I think it's like our inclination is we want success overnight. And the reality is that is not true anywhere.
Certainly not sustainable success for sure.
Right. And that kind of comes back to, how can corporations and youngsters partner together? It's sort of realizing success doesn't happen overnight. And so let's create a path to get there. And that's true of juggling all those balls. All those balls need a strategic path.
Yeah. So there's also been a lot of talk, and I'm sure this is something that's coming up. There's been a lot of talk about we're not going to get political, but just civic democracy and civic engagement. And one of my daughters works in public policy, and she's often said, gosh, it blows me away how so few people really understand what it's like what it's required to be a citizen.
Yeah.
And some just basic civic things. And we've all known people who've been doged, or, I've got a friend from USAID, RIP.
Yeah.
So with that, if you could redesign civic engagement from scratch with Gen Z, so it could be ready to take it and go with Gen Z in mind, what would it look like?
Again, another super interesting question because the times are so different. And I'm going to go back to this. It's all about survival right now. And, youth are prescribed to go to school. So it's like if you're not learning it in school, where else do they have the time to learn it, right? Unless they're joining a Boy Scouts or a Girl Scouts or a YMCA or whatever, which time is so constrained now for their parents. There's a lot of really great digital tools out there. It would be really great if civic engagement was a class, right? And not even like as civic engagement, but that concept, like if that existed and people had to get creative, just like you have to write a book report. So how do you help somebody with the tools that you have? And I say that because like a number of the teens in the book started out with an idea and then discovered the tools, the digital tools, the platform that they could create a curriculum or, a message or a concept. And then they realized this whole idea of chaptering it or networking it and realizing how many people across, the country or out of the country could actually take it and move it forward and then build collectively. So I think it's realizing the tools that we have and then also seeding it in a place where they all have to learn together to carry it through.
Right, exactly. So that everyone has to be committed.
Yes. Yeah. Or even get a sense of it. Right now it's kind of up to parents or what they may learn in a club that they happen to join.
Right.
And even then, where is the focus? Like, where is the time if they don't personally have the time at home to be able to contribute to something like that or aren't encouraged to?
Yeah. I just think there's so many things that aren't happening in education for a variety of different reasons that used to, and it just kind of fizzles out. No question. Screen time with everybody. How do you see that having impacted them?
I think it's hard, right? And I think
aside from bad handwriting, but go on.
Yeah, I mean, screen time it's a blessing and a curse, right? I think it's creating this isolation, which we've been hearing about all the mental health issues, and yet it's the future in terms of how people will learn and honestly, why teens are so smart right now. So
yes.
Those that are pursuing, who have information at their fingertips are going deep and far with it. AI is scary.
That's what I was going to ask you about next. What you think, friend or foe?
Both.
Yeah, right? I agree. Both and. Yes.
Yeah, both and. No question it's scary. No question. Was it your show? Someone said I think it was. She went to an MIT lecture and heard it is going to make us dumber. That terrifies me. Right?
Yes.
So learning to think critically about the information that you're fed, that not everyone has that luxury to be able to critically think about that. So that's the part I worry about, but it's here. So
do you think this group, are they more, this is probably inappropriate to really think about, but I was trying to figure out, there are 5 different ways of learning. So there's kinesthetic where you do, and then there's audio, and there's verbal, and there's visual. Do you think this generation is more of one type versus another?
It seems like they must have to be, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know why I tend to be such a visual learner. So where did I develop that? I don't know enough about that, but I don't know how these kids who needed to be home for a couple years during COVID weren't forced to pick up skills that were either worked with their brain or didn't work with their brain.
Exactly. And work around skills.
Right.
When they ran into that obstacle.
Right.
Well, then last one for you, my friend, would be knowing what you know now, what advice would you give your younger self?
Oh my gosh. I would have so much advice for myself.
Settle in, little missy. I get thoughts.
Sit still. I have some things for you. Honestly, it was quite a bit of what these teens shared with me. Don't be afraid to speak up. Know that what you have to say is important and can make a difference. Find audiences. Share your ideas. And then what I would add to that, and what they also said, is trust in yourself, believe in yourself, trust your intuition.
Wow.
I mean, it's, I was a shy kid, which is bizarre because then I ate an extrovert pill,
I guess. That one.
I know. But I was a shy kid and I was afraid to speak up. So I think how many other kids out there, like, again, have something within them and they're afraid to speak up, or are being told that they're wrong or they should be doing something else. So when I look back at why I majored in what I majored and what I'm doing now, I'm like, oh my God, I knew then what I wanted to do, but I didn't know.
Exactly. You didn't know what to put a word on. Exactly. It was the baby entry point.
Yeah. So I would go back and I've heard your other listeners or speakers say this, trust yourself. It will work out.
It really does. And if something doesn't turn out the way you were thinking it should or could, et cetera, I am living proof in so many ways of when that happens. Oh my gosh, it means this amazing world actually does open up. And your career is a perfect example of this. Literally flowing on down the river. Yeah, right? Like, oh my God.
Yes, it made sense.
It worked out.
It worked out. Yeah, I mean, and kind of back to your point though, too, like I love that these kids ripped the Band-Aid off and just got out there and started doing it. And I would love to know them when they're my age to see, because they literally just set up their own blueprint. And they have no idea how important all of this work that they just laid out for themselves, just because they felt it. Like, what else? Why isn't someone doing something about this? I guess I have to.
Yeah. And not only did they think it, then they did it.
Right.
That's
and
that
they just
last piece. Yeah. Right. Well, there's an app for that. They Googled it. There's a YouTube video. Blah, 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 blah.
Exactly. And they just started, one kid, he just started blogging about financial literacy because he was fascinated by it. I mean, and didn't know what he was going to do with that. It's math to a whole nother level.
No, it does. And it's just, I don't know. It's so heartening. Well, Kelly, thank you so much. Talk about inspiring and also, truthfully, eye-opening, really. So for all of us, don't be so quick to judge. Don't judge a book by its cover or its tone or its eye roll. I think so much more than meets the eye. And as is always the case, you know what? There's always something to learn from teeny tiny to old grandmother Willow. There always is. There always is. You just have to open your eyes and your heart and find it.
I could not appreciate you more for saying all of those things. That's what I live by. So awesome. It's so true.
Lucky you.
Thank you.
Listen, Gen Z and the rest of us are lucky that you're doing everything you're doing. Everyone go check out her book. Please, please, please. It's available. I'll be having a link. Right?
Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Outskirts Press. If you're here in the Bay Area at Book Passage.
Oh, fabulous. And Book Passage is an amazing bookstore. So look for Gen Z Teens Take Action by the illustrious Kelly Peterson.
Oh, thank you so much, Kate. This has been so much fun. Thank you for drawing light to what is possible for teens.
Thanks you for collecting them all. Appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Isn't she great? I just love Kelly. I love her energy. I love her curiosity. I love her wisdom. And she has probably one of what I would seriously call sexiest CVs ever, given all the folks that she's worked with, ranging from Richard Branson, Bono, the list goes on. Seriously. But for today's conversation, here are my key takeaways. One is, this whole notion that people were telling Kelly she had to wait to make a difference. Go make a ton of money, and then you can make a difference with that, which is AKA philanthropy. That sure is one way, but really the way to do it is you can do both now. And there's so many different ways and so many different examples of doing it. So do not put off following a passion and bringing it to life and doing good with it. The world is really counting on you for that. Her findings with her book, the Gen Z book, teens see so clearly. And because of it, they're able to figure out, oh my gosh, here's a problem. So I'm going to go build a solution to it. I'm going to build, the answer to it. Their perspective is unique and broad. I don't know how much, I think they do have a lot of self-judgment, but perhaps after they build some of these solutions, maybe they're actually okay with it. And really, they're not looking for attention. So I think that probably impacts how we work with each other in the workplace, and also perhaps even parent in dealing with older kids. what we can do as parents, as bosses, as colleagues, as friends is listen and protect quality time. The last 5 years, which were such quintessential parts of their, as they grew to being, really had a big, big impact. So also I would say demonstrate a bit of compassion. And then finally, rip the Band-Aid off, dive in, and by all means, believe in yourself. Seriously. Trust your intuition. We say all of these things again and again and again, and I don't mean to bore and state the obvious, but I have to keep repeating it because it really is so true. So with that, I'm going to leave you with my favorite word, which is believe, and say, believe me, I'm so grateful for you for joining me again. And I look forward to the next time we're together on Women Advancing with Kate Byrne.
Thanks for listening. May this episode inspire you to move forward. Be sure to go to iTunes, Spotify, katebyrne.co, that's KATEBYRNE.co, or wherever you listen to your podcasts, and listen to even more episodes. Here's to strong women. May we know them, may we be them, may we raise them. And be sure to meet them on the next Women Advancing. Ta till next time.